Now, every country has to prepare for the worst.
Now, Mr. President, as you know, this year's ADF is held under the theme Reclaiming Diplomacy in a Fragmented World. What does this phrase mean to you exactly in the current global context, and where do you see diplomacy falling short or potentially regaining strength in today's world?
Thank you. To be very frank, I tend to be now a bit pessimistic about the success of diplomacy. But I realize that we cannot give up on diplomacy. Why do I say I'm pessimistic? Because what we see now in the reality, the real world, what we are witnessing now is actually the carrying out of the age-old adagium, the age-old, let us say, philosophy of Thucydides, the ancient Greek historian, who said that the strong will do what they can, and the weak will suffer what they must suffer. So this adagium is being played out in front of our eyes. What is happening is might becomes right. Who has the strength? Who has the capacity? Tend to do what they can do. And this is very, very distressing, very sad for the rules-based system that has been created after the Second World War by the Western powers themselves. So this, for us, in the global south, in the aspiring countries that look up to the West, to be very frank, that want to create a democracy like the West. We believed in the lessons of the West. We believed in trias politica. We believed in freedom of expression, freedom of speech. As I said, no, I want to really correct myself, you know. Actually, I ran for president 4 times. I lost 3 times. So what I'm saying is, I believe in democracy. I was a soldier. I was a general. At one time, I commanded the strongest military force in Indonesia. And then I was told to step down. In more direct language, I was fired. But I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. And the Constitution says very clearly that the President has the supreme power over the armed forces. So when my President asked me to step down, I did not hesitate. I said, yes, sir. So what I'm saying is we believed in democracy. We believed in human rights. We believed in the rules-based order. But now, all of a sudden, we see before our eyes, let us say what President Erdogan mentioned, innocent children, innocent women, unarmed men being massacred in front of the eyes of the whole world. So, sorry. Sorry. So this is what I say. I do believe diplomacy is the only way, the best way. But I tend to be a bit sad. What this means is now every country has to prepare for the worst. This will take resources from us needed to eradicate poverty and eradicate hunger. Now we have to invest in a strong defense because we don't know what's going to happen next month, next week. So this is a bit saddening, actually. But yeah, if you want to ask me, I say that we have to go through diplomacy, but many countries now are assessing, I think, and are preparing for the worst. Preparing for the worst. Thank you.
Well, Indonesia, as we know, is known as a strong advocate for a more just and balanced global order. It sounds like you want to carry that tradition as well. From your perspective, what would an ideal global order look like?
Well, actually, we already have the format. We have the United Nations. We have many institutions which are doing great work. The WHO, the UNICEF, the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, they're doing very, very great work, overcoming hunger, you know, so we do have a format. Now, for instance, maybe, you know, there are demands that Security Council, the permanent members should be increased to represent the reality of this present world. We have big countries like India, big countries like Brazil, you know, many countries that represent a big segment of the world population that feel underrepresented in the highest organs of the United Nations. So actually, we already have a good format, and but then we are saddened that, you know, this good format that's proven effective, bringing down diseases, saving hundreds of thousands of lives everywhere, is in danger of being abandoned. So I would say let's not reinvent the wheel, build on what has been proven to be good, overcome its shortcomings, improve, build on what has been achieved. That's my outlook, my position.
We're also witnessing major shifts in global alignments. For example, the execution of me first policies, the changing of alliances, multipolarity. How do you interpret these changes, and what lessons should middle powers like Indonesia draw from these evolving patterns?
This is very interesting, but you know, Indonesia, by tradition, we have always been non-aligned. In fact, we are the founders of the non-aligned movement, together with India, Egypt, that time Yugoslavia. So we are the first founders of the non-aligned movement, and by tradition, every Indonesian government has to maintain this tradition. Otherwise, we will lose popular support. Our people do not want to be engaged into any alliances or blocs, especially military blocs. So we are by tradition neutral. So, for instance, my philosophy, which I announced early on in my campaign, is an ancient Asian philosophy, an ancient philosophy of the Eastern peoples, of the Asiatic civilizations, which is the philosophy taught to us generations. 1,000 friends too few, one enemy too many. It's a very clear and simple sentence, but very difficult to achieve. 1,000 friends, too few. One enemy too many. But this is logical because, for instance, where I come from, Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, 50 years ago, we were fighting amongst ourselves. We, neighbors, sending troops to each other's territories, claiming each other's territories. This is South Asia 50 years ago. You know, and then amongst the wise leaders at that certain time, at a certain point in history, the leaders of 5 Southeast Asian countries, right, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, and came to realize, hey, we have urgent agenda for our people. We have to deal with poverty and hunger. Why do we fight amongst ourselves? And then the idea of ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, came, and lo and behold, 50 years, no conflict. We still have differences, but we tend to use diplomacy. We tend to talk and talk and talk, and sometimes talk, you know, is very tedious, but better talk than fight. That's our position, you know. And that's the Asian tradition. Sometimes the talk can go on and on and on, but in the end, there is some sort of interaction, some sort of chemistry, and we tend to think of the common interest. So this is my philosophy also. So 1,000 friends. I want to bring Indonesia to a position of good relations with all the big powers, and so that we can be some sort of bridge and mediator, etc., etc., etc. This is our effort. So I announced, when I took over, I announced that I want to carry out a policy of the good neighbor. I want to be a good neighbor to all my neighbors, and even to the outlying powers, the great powers of the world. I want to be on very good terms. I want to respect all the great powers, as I hope they would respect us.
Saya Ihsan Sitorus. Saksikan program-program Kompas TV melalui siaran digital, pay TV, dan media streaming lainnya. Kompas TV, independen, terpercaya.